Welcome back to A Neighbor's Choice. We are live on FM and AM, 1040 AM, News Talk Florida, and so many folks around the world listening to us at aneighborschoice.com. Also, folks who search for us on David Gornoski, your favorite podcast venue, whether it's Apple or whatever it is, you can search for it, David Gornoski, and subscribe to your podcast on demand if you are not able to catch our live program. Joining me now to talk about the field of nutrition and expand it out for folks who are new to this and how important it is our good friend Tucker Goodrich. How you doing, Tucker?
I'm good, David. How are you?
I'm doing well. Now you're over there in the hinterlands in Florida. What's going on over there? Is it getting cold?
The hinterlands in Florida. I'm still up in Idaho.
Florida. I keep thinking. Wait a second. I keep thinking. Ever since midterms, I keep thinking of the whole nation as Florida. I don't know if that's something to come or what.
Well, we're not there yet, David. But here's hoping.
Exactly. You're over there in Idaho. What's going on over there?
Well, I'm looking at this white stuff you may have heard of or perhaps seen on television called snow out the window.
Oh, my goodness.
So winter definitely arrived about a week ago and dumped a good load of snow on us. And I'm hoping for more because I'm looking forward to start skiing.
Well, very good. So it's covered in snow or just a little bit of trickle?
Just a bit of snow down here. The tops of the mountains are covered. I mean, if I go outside and look up, 22 miles away is the mountain that's about almost a mile higher than where I'm standing right now. So the weather here in Boise is actually very nice and pleasant most of the time. We don't get that much snow, but whenever you want to, you can drive up to winter on top of the mountain.
Well, it's totally alien to what we have here in Florida, but it's something that I'm sure is quite beautiful and majestic to be traveling around there and hiking that like you do. You have always maintained that, you've got to walk, right? Is walking the best way to get good natural exercise and health, longevity?
Walking's definitely a staple. Walking's the, meat and potatoes of exercise. And what I tell anybody who's trying to get into shape to do first is to start walking. And then once that becomes easy, then they can start maybe running or start biking a bit more. Generally folks like that are looking to lose some weight. And just by starting to run, you can, there was actually one of my neighbors when I lived back in Connecticut. It was amazing. I would see her out walking every morning. And over about 2 years, she went from being very overweight to very lean. And I stopped one day and I asked her, I said, I see you out here all the time. It's been an amazing transformation. What are you doing? And she said, I just walk every day and I cut out sugary drinks. You don't have to do a huge thing to make a big difference in your life.
Yeah, and it's something that I think is an easy way to feel better psychologically too, is to get out in the outdoors and be a part, get that fresh air of freedom into your lungs and not kind of staying in an office atmosphere if you can help it all the time. People tend to go from sitting in an office to, sitting in a couch and then, not really getting out, getting that fresh air. At least what would you say is a minimum that people should strive to get that fresh air exercise of even mild degree every day? What would you say?
Well, I mean, if you could at least get out and, walk for half an hour a day, you'd be off to a huge start. And then, of course, as you do it, it becomes easier. And then, you get to the point where you start to realize that you feel worse when you don't do it. So then you start wanting to do it. And that's, of course, when it gets really easy.
Right. When you, I was talking in an earlier segment of today's broadcast about, how much economic of how much of an economic boon it would be if we were to have a total renaissance in terms of restructuring our nutrition system and getting people off of vegetable oils, right? And I mean, you're a data guy. You have a background in finance and Wall Street, but you're also into nutrition science. Have you ever looked at, a scenario in which we get a handle on this toxicity of vegetable oils and say we phase them out in a dramatically quick way? How much of an economic explosion of wealth that would create for our country, because so much of our economy gets funneled and our resources get through government or our own resources get funneled into this sick care that gets us managing chronic debilitating pains and sufferings when we're 50 and up for decades. It's just a total pipeline of sick care that if that was just totally not needed as much, by several orders of magnitude reduced, would open up so much opportunity for capital to flow towards things that could build society in a more prosperous direction, which would create economic vitality for people. And then also just the physical wellness that people would have to be able to do more things. If you're not debilitated with chronic pain, if you're not numbed out with medications for mental problems that are being reduced through natural dietary corrections, if you're not saddled with all kinds of doctor's appointments and things that are keeping you down, you have the opportunity to make that new song or to make that new business or to do that new thing, as opposed to just kind of managing a very slow and painful decline like Americans seem to be told is the only thing you can expect when you're old.
Well, David, it would be the biggest tax cut imaginable. It would cause, we spend 18%, the most recent numbers I'm aware of, we spend about 18% of our gross domestic product on healthcare, right? That's twice what other industrial countries spend. So we've got, a huge, and there's a lot of reasons for that. I mean, we have a huge doctor cartel in the United States that doctors in the United States get paid twice as much as what doctors anywhere else get paid. And for all of this money that we spend on healthcare, we have the worst healthcare results among any industrial country, right? So not only are we spending an enormous amount of money on healthcare, but we're getting lousy results out of it. We have the highest obesity rate in the world, right? Except for tiny little islands in the South Pacific. So yeah, we're getting, if we could cut that in half, right? Think of how much money that would put back in people's pockets. It'd be just equivalent to the sort of tax cut that Ronald Reagan did back in the 80s that supercharged the economy for the next 30 years. Plus, we would have everybody much more healthy and much more energetic and much more willing to go out and, go for a walk or start a business or take a risk. Much more willing to, start a family, because there's all sorts of effects of ill health on fertility. Yeah, I think I mean, that's why I keep doing this. I don't think there's any single thing that could have as much of an impact on the United States as fixing healthcare. And the biggest problem with healthcare in the United States, I think, is our overconsumption of these toxic seed oils. It leads to every single chronic disease that is bankrupting this country and driving our healthcare expenses. And
even though I've talked about this at length with you, even when I hear it now, it still seems too good to be true that one thing could be, it's too bad to be true and too good to be true at the same time, right? It's too bad that one little innocuous ingredient that's so ubiquitous in food that's affordable in restaurant foods that people enjoy after all the stress and they want to go out with their friends and have a pub meal and stuff, that this thing could be so ubiquitously in everything, and yet it's too good to be true to think, man, that could really, if we took out that one factor, how many diseases could decline? Because people know, and I've told you this before, people intuitively kind of know that vegetable oils, yeah, that's one of them kind of sketchy things like processed food. They have yellow 5 and lecithin and all these different things, which could be problematic and seem to be, but they kind of take the vegetable oil attack, David, and they kind of lump it into that fuzzy collection of processed ingredients, additives. You know what I mean?
People know now. People didn't know recently. I mean,
right.
I'm looking behind me at my wife's bookcase, the Moosewood Restaurant, Low-Fat Favorites, right? And that's an old book. Ever since the 1960s, when the American Heart Association started telling everybody to eat Wesson canola or corn oil, even though corn oil was shown to produce higher rates of heart disease and kill people, the whole country for decades has been of the opinion that vegetable oils are a good thing for you and a healthy thing for you. It's only been in the last, pretty much since the paleo movement started, and then in the last 5 years, this message has really started to take off. And we've seen we're starting to see a sea change, and the pro-seed oil folks are starting to get a little upset about it, and they're coming out with their best arguments, and they're laughably weak.
So, again, for folks who are new to the subject, how could this innocuous ingredient, canola oil, soybean oil, corn oil, margarine, all these different safflower, sunflower, all these little vegetable type oils, how could they be causing all these chronic diseases in one full sweep? How could that be happening? How could that ubiquitous ingredient be really the key factor? What if it's just 10% of the problem and not 90% of the problem?
Well, first, from the big picture, we're talking about a problem that's not just happening in the United States, right? It's happening all around the world. And it's not just happening in people. It's happening in all the animals around people, right? It's happening in pigeons in New York City. It's happening in raccoons, but only the raccoons that eat people food. And it's happening to our pets. The obesity rate in dogs and cats is, 60-odd%. So a lot of the explanations, when a doctor says something's multifactorial, fine, but dogs aren't getting fat because they're all of a sudden stopped counting their calories, right? Pigeons don't have that problem. I mean, pigeons in New York City, they have a hard life. They have to fly around and hunt for food all day. So why all of a sudden in the last few decades do we have fat diabetic pigeons in New York City, right? It's got to be a simple answer for it to be affecting so many different places all at the same time, right? It can't be. I mean, the fattest nation in the country is in the South Pacific Island, right? They're very different from, where I live in Idaho or you live in Florida. They don't have pollution. They don't have lots of other issues that we have in the United States. And yet, all of a sudden in the past couple of decades, they started eating Western food, which means a lot of seed oils, and they started getting obese. And then when you start looking at what actually causes these diseases, you keep coming on this same thing, right? Linoleic acid is the fat in seed oils, the omega-6 fat in seed oils, converts into your body to this toxin called HNE, and HNE causes obesity. It causes genetic damage that leads to cancer. The single most common mutation in cancer is called the P53 tumor suppression gene. Basically, the gene that protects your body from cancer gets broken. HNE causes that mutation. It causes heart disease. It causes atherosclerosis. It literally turns, the LDL in your blood from a healthy part of your body into a toxin that's floating around inside of your body. If they want to give a rodent Alzheimer's disease and create the plaques that we hear about in Alzheimer's disease, they inject this chemical into their brain. So every single step, even sunburn, if you look at what happens in sunburn, it's the seed oils in your skin, the linoleic acid in your skin breaks down into this toxin, HNE, and causes the inflammation and cell death that you see when you really get a sunburn, which is why so many people who cut out seed oils I mean, I've lost track of all of the people online who say, oh, my goodness, I can't believe it. It actually worked. At first, it was people saying, well, this happened, and I don't know what happened. And then, I'm kind of explaining to people, and now people try it because they want to see if it'll help prevent them from sunburn, and it works very consistently.
Right. And so it's getting health results for so many people. And you said HNE, right? That's the thing that the seed oils produce as a byproduct?
HNE, yes.
So HNE, what is HNE again?
It's an aldehyde. So, everybody in high school biology encountered formaldehyde, which is, what we used to embalm people with. It's very toxic. That's why you use it as an embalming fluid. This is another aldehyde that is produced by seed oils getting heated or even just oxidized when they're in your body. It's produced inside of your cells.
Right. And so that's the thing that is driving these multiplicity of diseases you're saying, right, with the seed oils. Is there any other products that cause H&E production in the body as a byproduct?
H&E is only made. H&E is only made from the fats and vegetable oils. It's made also from arachidonic acid, which is another fat in the body, which is also made from the fats and vegetable oils.
In the fat and vegetable oils is omega-6 fats, right? That's what you're talking about.
That's right. Yeah, H&E is only made from omega-6 fats.
So if that's the case, I mean, we know that chicken and pork and other different meats can have high amounts of omega-6. And we know that eating nuts and seeds, pistachios and all these things, almonds and so forth, are going to have high amounts of omega-6 to various degrees. So again, if you were to eat a zero or next to zero seed oil-free diet, theoretically, it's possible, but you were still eating regular amounts of nuts and seeds and chicken fat and pork fat, which is all rich in omega-6, would that be producing H&E, and would that be then cascading to these various chronic diseases we've just mentioned?
Yes, absolutely. It doesn't matter where the fat is coming from. In fact, the biggest source of omega-6 in the diet is from chicken, not from seed oils. Because how do they fatten up chicken? They feed them seed oils and they feed them a lot of grains.
Wait, we got to say that again.
Have a lot of omega-6 in them.
That's a bombshell. You're saying there's more, cite the source there, there's more fats in the average American diet. There's more omega-6 coming from chicken than there is from vegetable oils in the American diet?
Yes, that's right. Chicken's the number one source, according to the National Cancer Institute.
So why aren't we talking, I'm just putting you on the spot here, why aren't you talking about stop eating chicken as much as seed oils?
Oh, I absolutely do. We've talked about it before. Yeah, chicken's a big problem.
Where's the fried chicken disrespecter, huh? Somebody needs to create that Twitter account, huh?
Fried chicken's like the worst thing in the world.
All right, let's put away the fried part. Just chicken disrespecter at this, or chicken savior, I guess. We need someone to save chickens from being eaten if they're a problem, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, chicken's the number one source of omega-6 in the diet, which is kind of surprising, but, why do they do that? Because they want to grow these chickens really fast. I think in America I saw a figure recently, they grow 9 billion chickens a year in the United States.
So if you're talking to the audience listening right now live, are you saying if you were to talk to them one-on-one, you would say, yeah, you probably need to avoid chicken just as fortuitously as you should avoid seed oils?
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely.
What about when you go to the store and you see like chicken tenderloins without the skin on, or chicken breasts? Those are obviously more expensive without the skin. Is that going to have a high amount of omega-6?
That's kind of the funny thing, right? They did. Yeah, the safest chicken you can get is the skinless, low-fat chicken breast. If you want to eat some chicken, that's the chicken to get. Or if you can get pastured chicken.
So do you avoid traditional...
And we have studies out there that looked into fried chicken, and it is chock full of this toxin HNE, right?
Right.
And I mean, the paper says this might pose a public health concern for long-term consumption given the toxicity of HNE. This was a paper that just came out, actually came out a bunch of years ago, 2017. So they've looked at, potatoes, French fried potatoes, the most obesogenic food sold in the United States. What do they fry French fries in? They fry them in seed oils. That's why they're so obesogenic.
Wow. And you think about it, and it's true that you look at a McDonald's meal and you got fries fried in seed oils. You got chicken nuggets, which I guess I don't know what kind of meat they have, but there might be some omega-6 fats in the meat and probably in the breading. Don't quote me on that. And then you get them fried in oil. And then you've got the dipping sauces, honey, all those different flavored dipping sauces. Most of them are going to have soybean oil as the top ingredient. That is a tremendous amount of omega-6 fat content going in one meal, isn't it? Goodness.
Yeah, exactly. And yet when these nutrition people say, "Oh, fast food is a problem," they show a picture of a burger and fries and a Coke, and they say the problem is the red meat in the burger, the healthiest part of that meal, right? If all you do, and I mean, people have done this, if all you do is go to McDonald's and eat the hamburger patties, and McDonald's will sell you just the hamburger patties,
right?
You can actually have a really nice, healthy meal at a McDonald's. That's what I do when I go on road trips.
Right. So if you were stuck in an apocalypse, let's say you were stuck in an infinite supplied McDonald's in an apocalypse, what would you be eating if that's all you had access to?
I'd be eating a lot of McDonald's patties and a lot of coffee.
To keep from the zombie hordes, you got to have the coffee, right?
Yeah, exactly. You got to stay away from those zombies are after you. Right.
Speaking of zombies, you mentioned to me these frankenfats, and we've got just a couple minutes, but what's a frankenfat, synthetic fats?
So a frankenfat is, since these folks have got fats on the nutrition and the cardiology crowd have got fats on the brain, the safest, most stable fats in the diet are the ones that we've been eating for millions of years. They're a little bit of polyunsaturated fats, the monounsaturated fats from things like olive oil, and then the saturated fat that comes from dairy and meat, right? Yeah. The frankenfats are these manufactured fats. Everybody's heard of trans fats, but now they're starting to play around with something called interesterification, where they mix up all these different fats together, and they're just starting to figure out what that's going to do to us. So you want to stick with the fats in the form that we've been eating for millions of years and not try playing around with fancy things like trans fats or any other man-made fats.
Wow. I heard that someone said the other day goat is high in omega-6 fats too. I know that's random, but I just thought, did you hear about that? Goat meat is naturally rich in omega-6 fats?
Goats are ruminants like cows, so they're going to be more protected from eating omega-6 fats than, say, a chicken or a pig or a person. So, yeah, goats are good, lamb's good. Lamb's usually grass-fed, so that's actually a great option.
Very interesting. Hey, Tucker, always a pleasure having you on the program. What an important topic. And every time I see clips like Mitch McConnell saying, "I'm not going anywhere," I think to myself, you know what? To heck with politics. Let's go full steam ahead towards the renaissance of health that can be unleashed when this idea spreads like wildfire. How about that, Tucker?
Absolutely. We just need to make all these folks redundant, and then we don't have to worry about them anymore.
That's right, because if you don't need to go to the health clinic because you're crystal clear in your health and your heart's in good health and you don't have high blood sugar and you don't have inflammation and you don't have chronic pain, you beat the system that way, and that's the thing that we've got to keep fighting for.
That's exactly right, David. 100%. Thanks for having me on again. It's great as always.
Very good. Check out yelling-stop.blogspot.com to find Tucker's writings or follow him at Tucker Goodrich on Twitter, or follow him also on YouTube, Tucker Goodrich there. I'm David Gornoski. You can email me hello@aneighborschoice.com. Godspeed.